Hello, 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 and welcome to Fit After 40 Women's Fitness and Health Revolution podcast. Kinsey here, and today the podcast is going to be something a little bit different. Now, there are just too many benefits to being a part of Fit After 40, so many that I can't even start to name them all. But one of my favorite things that I think really sets the studio apart from pretty much any other studio that I can think of. There are a few that really honor this, but really we're unique in this way is that one of our pillars of what is most important to us as a studio is the education piece, giving women the opportunity to not just learn how to move better and take care of their bodies, but really learn about their bodies and how to optimize pretty much everything they do. So every single month, I mean, not all at once, of course, right? But every month we do an educational webinar. Sometimes that's things about WTF is menopause. Sometimes we move into things like protein or mobility. This particular podcast is a recording from our May webinar where we had our podcast darling, metabolic health and weight loss coach Brandi Sheehan come on and talk about debunking four of the biggest diet myths out there. She did a podcast at the time of this recording, or rather an Instagram post at the time of this recording that hit me across the face like a slap. And I was, oh my goodness, we need you to come and talk about this because this is just one of so many things that we were told as women growing up, and honestly, men, everyone, right? Ways that diet culture got in our head, mess with our brains, and not only mess with our brains, but really set our bodies up for self-destruction. The problem with diet culture isn't just that it is a mind F, but it's that the things that we feel like we have to do, those food rules we impose on ourselves, the starving ourselves, the counting, the ignoring hunger cues, these wreck havoc metabolically, especially as we get older. Maybe in our 20s and early 30s, we had the resilience for our body to just sort of white knuckle it. But these are so many reasons that as we get through midlife and beyond, we start to notice things changing in our body, notice that we're not responding, quote unquote, the same way we used to. And it's so vital to me that we understand that it is not our fault. We have been fed lies pretty much since we've started consuming pop culture. So today, Brandi talks about four major lies that probably, I would say, like 80 to 90% of us have done at one point in our life. So I'm super duper excited to share this with y'all. Like I said, it was shot as a webinar with, at the time, no intention of making it a podcast. But after we finished it, I was like, you know what? This is too important not to share with the world. So audio is a little different than it usually is, but stick around because what you are going to walk away with, whether you identify with all four of these myths or there's one that's just about to change your life, I know that this is going to change the way that we approach robust nutrition for the better. Because at the end of the day, quality of life is what we're after. And part of our quality of life is getting out of our own head and taking stress and shame out of the picture. We're just looking how to support these beautiful machines of ours. All right, team, enough from me. I'm going to kick it to Brandi. But first, welcome to Fit After 40, the Women's Fitness and Health Revolution podcast. Kinsey here, certified personal trainer and menopause coaching specialist. I've worked with hundreds of clients over the past 12 years and know firsthand how intimidating starting a fitness routine can be, especially in perimenopause. My goal is to teach women in midlife and beyond how to feel strong and confident in their bodies and to help them live the healthy life they deserve, free of pain, heart disease, dementia, frailty, you name it. In this show, you'll get action steps you can take today, backed by the most up-to-date research and thousands of hours of practical in-gym experience. The best time to get started may have been 20 years ago, but the second best time to get started is today. Hey guys, Perfect. Thank you so much. Happy Fit After 40 webinar of the month. You are lucky duckies because you don't have to sit here and listen to me talk this month. You get Brandi. Boo, 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 boo. I wish I had an air horn for you or like some like fun sound effect. Exactly. Boo. Most of you know Brandi because she is also part of our Fit After 40 cohorts. She's also our resident like nutrition genius. She ran her reset. Wow, my brain just farted. Her 30-day reset in, God, when was that? March, I think.
March.
Yep, I
Yep.
did it, and a couple of you did it with her. It was an amazing experience. This is a field that I've been in for a really long time, and I just learned a lot of, I felt like I walked away with a lot of really practical things just to help really bolster my energy levels throughout the day and just like the amount that I don't think about food anymore. Like I just walked away with a lot of really good tools having already been in a good place. So I can only imagine what people who are like trying to navigate the whole nutrition space, how beneficial that will be. So definitely keep your eyes out for that, y'all, because she is going to have another reset coming up. But Brandi is I should have pulled up your bio, but a metabolic and weight loss coach for women. She's helped hundreds probably of women at this point, both through her reset, and she also does one-on-one training. I say it every time I have her. I also have some podcasts with her on it, but I think it bears repeating because this isn't like a person that I've chosen lightly. I'm very, very particular with who I bring on when it comes to nutrition. So this is not just like someone I picked up off the street, even though I would anyway, because you're a fun human. But
Kind of.
I
Kind of.
I love everything she has to say. And today we're doing a topic that I'm really excited about. We are going to be having Brandi. She does this series on her Instagram. And I was like, you know what? I would love if you just kind of came in and did like a workshop on this. And she calls it like 5 years of weight loss advice in 60 seconds. But one thing that she does a really good job of is debunking all the bullshit that I feel like we've been inundated with by diet culture and just does a really good job of debunking and then just talking about like a realistic way why that isn't the approach or like giving you strategies that don't make you have to think about things or count or suddenly make your entire busy life about just controlling food. She just brings like levity and breath to it. So I'm really excited because these are all things every time she brings it up where I'm like, I know I still think about these things and I know a lot of people out there are probably still doing these things. So I'm hoping that after this, there's at least one thing, I'm sure, but probably multiple things that you walk away with feeling like you can just sort of release your grip and live a little bit easier and healthier. Because that's really the end game is living well. So with further ado, I should have planned that out. I'm going to kick it over to Brandi. Let me pin you solely. And Brandi, take it away. Thank you so much. I'm going to mute myself here.
Oh, thanks for the wonderful intro. Hello, everyone, and everyone that's going to be watching the replay too. Kinsey, thanks again for having me back. I like to call the myths that I'm busting diet baggage. That's what I refer to it as with my clients. Like most clients come to me carrying like 5 to 30 years of diet baggage behind them, and these like common beliefs and myths that I'm going to be talking about are wrapped up in that diet baggage. But like Kinsey said, I'll do a little introduction to just a little backstory. For most of you guys know me from the Fit After 40. Some of you from my space might be also watching this replay. So but again, I'm Brandi Sheehan. I'm a women's weight loss and metabolic health coach. I primarily work with women kind of mid-age, maybe 40 and beyond, sometimes 30 and beyond, who are struggling with hunger, cravings, low energy, fatigue, weight gain, that insidious weight gain that seemingly creeps up on us as we age, and just kind of a general frustration with how their body is looking and performing as we get older. Most of my clients have been dieting for a really, really, really long time and kind of following all the old rules, right? The old playbook that we used to play by, that we've been conditioned with, right? The whole eat less, move more, do cardio, be disciplined, go for a run, yada, yada, yada. The last time that I hosted the Fit After 40 webinar, I outlined the 5 guiding food principles that provide kind of the framework to my weight loss approach. So you guys, if you want a little bit more kind of strategic, what to do kind of things, that would be a good one to catch. Kinsey, remind me, how do we watch the replays again? I know there's a
Absolutely.
way.
So
I should know this, but I don't.
No, it's going to change soon. But right now, if you want it, I've sent everyone, they have like links to the YouTube, but definitely reach out and ask me. I'm currently building a portal where we're going to have access to just like Kajabi style, all these old recordings. But right now it's in like a YouTube. I'll actually, that's a good reminder to send it out so everyone has it. But right now it's just like a YouTube playlist.
Got it. Yeah, that's what I do with mine too. Actually, that works well. So yeah, catch that if you want a little bit more kind of deep dive into like my weight loss methodology. Oh, somebody's popping on here. So my approach to health and weight loss is a little different. I always like to say when conventional dieting wisdom fails you, as it has for many and most women, that's where I come into play. I don't teach calorie counting, food tracking, portions, willpower tactics. The women I work with have far better things to do with their time than micromanage their food. I help women focus on kind of regulating their appetite, improving satiety, supporting their metabolic health, and just like actually feeling good in their bodies. And the side effect of that is weight loss, fat loss. I say weight loss because that's the verbiage that clients use with me, but what we really want is fat loss, most people anyways. So today I want to walk you guys through kind of some of the biggest nutrition myths that I see keeping women stuck, and a lot of nutrition advice out there, especially on social media, is confusing, it's conflicting, it's tedious and dumb, honestly. That's the best clinical word I can think of. Like, it's just really dumb advice. And I always like to apologize on the behalf of the wellness culture for making weight loss and health such a confusing, complicated thing. I honestly think that feeding ourselves, even if it's in the way of like we're dieting, as in we're trying to lose weight for those people, since that's kind of the space I work in, I honestly think that should be the easiest thing that we do in a day. Like, when I think of where I want to put my mental energy in a day, it's towards my job, it's towards coaching, it's towards helping women, it's toward parenting my child and running a household and being a wife and all these things. The last thing I want to be putting more attention on is my food, so I do really try to make this as simple as literally possible for people. So the four kind of myths that I'm going to walk through are: number one, drinking water when you're hungry. Biggest pet peeve. Drinking water when it's water intake in general. Okay, there's a whole thing there. Okay. Number two, food tracking is required for weight loss. You've heard this. I'm sure a lot of people believe this, that you have to micromanage, you have to track macro, calorie count, points, Weight Watchers, Jenny Craig, whatever it is. You have to do some kind of micromanagement of your food in order to lose weight. You don't have to. The third one is kind of just like the general advice of eating less, right? Like the way to weight loss is just eat less and less, right? The whole eat less, move more. It's like when, 20-year-old shirtless Brandon, the fitness trainer at the gym, tells you that you just need to count your calories and eat less. Like, you haven't been trying that for decades at this point. You're like, okay, great advice, Brandon. Thanks. Like, put your shirt back on, buddy. I hate that. Actually, funny sidebar, and I don't know if this was like a meme or a reel or a client told me this or something like that, but it was something about, a middle-aged woman in her 40s or 50s, and she had a trainer at the gym who was Brandon, right? That kind of 20-year-old, and no hate or shame on fitness professionals. Like, Kinsey, I love you, and you can be shirtless all you want, and it's fine. But the meme or the conversation was around shirtless Brandon just said, like, well, have you tried just counting calories? And for the woman, it was like an insult. And she's like, Brandon, I've been counting calories longer than you've been fucking alive at this point in time. Like, I've tried that. Like, it's not working. And I just thought it was funny. I wish I knew if that was a meme or a conversation with a client or whatever, but that's a testament to how many conversations I have in a day. And then the last myth is why constantly snacking, aka eating every 2 to 3 hours to, stoke the fire, boost the metabolism, whatever you want to call it, is fake news. We'll just call it fake news. So, and at the end of this, I should have said at the beginning, at the end of this, if there are, I know one person's on live right now, but if there's any questions, we'll have time for that at the end. So, myth number one, okay? Drinking water will help manage hunger. You can insert gum chewing to this too, because it's kind of the same concept. I was always somebody in my younger years of chronic dieting. I did the gum thing, like when I was hungry, I chewed gum. And then ironically, I made sure I counted the calories in the gum that I was chewing. It was like a really weird paradigm to be in. And I was like, did I just have 120 calories of gum? Like, I could have eaten something for that or whatever. But so this one drives me nuts because somewhere along the line, women were taught that hunger is something to suppress, right? Something to suppress instead of something to understand and something to honor and something to respond to appropriately. Hunger is a biological imperative, okay? It exists to let you know when to eat. How cool is that? We have a hunger signal that tells us exactly when it's time to eat. It's the part of the kind of the yin to the yang of your appetite signaling system. You have hunger on one side of it, and then you have satiety, okay, or fullness, right? And this little yin yang thing works perfectly and in harmony with each other when we are in tune with it, in alignment with it, which a lot of people aren't. But now we have women who have been misled to think hunger is something evil, right? It's like derailing their dieting efforts, and it's something to be manipulated and like outsmarted. Outsmarted. I don't know if that's a word. It's a word today. So now we have women carrying around gallon water jugs and Stanley cups like it's their third arm, trying to drown out their appetite all day long. And we think we're like fooling our bodies, like, ooh, like I'm feeling a little hungry right now. I think I'll just drink some water or chew some gum, and my body will think that I fed it something. Like that was kind of what we were told. And it's like, no, like our bodies are not that dumb. Water resolves thirst, food resolves hunger. Okay. Thirst and hunger are two very different metabolic processes in our body. Okay. They're just two different things. Our body gives us very clear and distinct signals when we feel these things, right? Think of like when you guys feel thirsty. Where do we feel thirst? We feel it in our mouth, like in our tongue, on our tongue. Like we just kind of get this little, I don't know, urge maybe to like wet the whistle. And then where do we feel hunger? Okay, we generally feel it in our bellies, right? It's that very clear cue from your body, like, hey, yo, nutrition's getting low here. Put a little rumble in your belly because that's your cue, because that's where food essentially goes. It goes into your belly. When we feel tired, where do we feel it? In our eyes, right? Our eyes start to get heavy. Like our body gives us these very, very clear signals, and we try to ignore it or manipulate it or micromanagement. Like your body is not confusing the want of a steak for a Stanley cup. It's just not like, that's not how our bodies work here. And you might be thinking like, oh, okay, Brandi, like, but water's important. I'm not talking about like the importance of water. Like, of course we need to drink water. We need hydration. And hydration is water and electrolytes too, which people forget. Like you can drink all the plain water in the world and you still might not be getting hydration from it, but I digress. That's another thing. But we can just drink when we're thirsty. Like that's another common thing women ask me, or I see on like social media and things like that, women getting so focused on like, well, how much water do I need to be drinking a day? Like we've come up with all of these kind of made up numbers of like 64 ounces or your body weight. And I might be making some of these up, but you guys get the idea. Like drink your body weight in, or have 12 ounces of water, as soon as you wake up in the morning. Like all these things are made up. Like, do you need to drink water? Yes. Can you just drink water when your body politely asks you for a drink of water? Yes. And all will be good in the world. Most women are not struggling. Most women I work with, we're not struggling with dehydration. Okay. Like that's not the problem. Nobody's like walking around in a dehydrated state here. They're struggling with being underfed, right? Especially when we're talking about protein and nutrient deficiencies and vitamins and minerals and all the other things. But that's entirely a different topic too. But the moral of the story here is water and gum do not resolve hunger. Okay. Food does. And when our body cues the hunger signal, it is our job to eat a meal. Okay, that's your cue. Eat a meal, not a snack, not a piece of gum, not a drink out of your Stanley cup or some raw veggie sticks, a meal. I hit all that water, stop the water one, because she liked that.
I loved that. You froze just when you asked me, but yeah, you sure did. That was my favorite because just like tapping into that, that was the one that like maybe I killed my internet being outside, but that was one of the biggest ones I know when I was like stuck in an eating disorder was I did the gum for sure, and I did the water, and I skipped food, and it did not help.
Yeah. And funny
So
enough, you drink all that water and now you just have to pee and you're still hungry. You
yep.
know, like it might temporarily like I don't know, like that's for a minute, but like you're not going to get out of the need for nutrients, okay? So cuz when we get hungry, our body is looking for nutrients, right? There's a demand um when our body cues up hunger, and like we don't get nutrients per se from water, we get hydration from water. They're two different things. So myth number 2, food tracking is required for weight loss, for fat loss. This is a big one that is near and dear to my heart, that I feel like I'm literally in a fight with the rest of social media world and the rest of the weight loss world, because I am one of very few that does not believe in food tracking. And we have generations of women, especially kind of the Gen X and above, that have been completely convinced that they cannot trust their bodies or themselves around food. They cannot trust themselves unless they have an app, a set of macros to follow, a meal plan that tells them exactly what to do. One of the foundations of my program, of my private program, is my stance on anti-food tracking. So I do think this is really, really important. What generally happens when we food track is we stop listening to our bodies. There's a huge disconnect there. We've been programmed and conditioned and brainwashed to not trust our bodies from the get-go, really, and this is just another part of that. But we stop listening to our hunger. We stop listening to our satiety. We stop kind of taking inventory of our energy and how we feel and our appetites in favor of food math, right? Completely arbitrary, made up food math. And then everything, all of our food becomes this kind of obsessive, hyper-vigilant math equation, like how many calories should I be eating? What are my macros? Am I eating too much fat? Am I eating too much carbs? How many grams should this? Do I weigh my food raw or cooked? Like all of these things that are relatively pointless in my world, and just creates these mental gymnastics, and it creates a lot of distress for women around food. Women start using MyFitnessPal over trusting their own bodies and their own biology and their own intuitions with their bodies. And what I always remind women is, like, humans have successfully been feeding themselves for, depending on where in the human timeline you want to go, for 2.5 million years at this point in time, without scales or QR codes or Jenny Craig or macro calculators. Like that stuff didn't exist, and we were able to maintain relative good health and relatively good body composition. Humans are designed to experience hunger. We're designed to seek out nourishment. We are designed to experience satiety and fullness. This system works remarkably well when we stop drowning it with, ultra processed foods and constant snacking and chronic dieting and all these food rules that I kind of just listed off, and all the food math. Okay, all of these things are modern day constructs. Okay, all of these things were completely made up by the diet and wellness culture. Nobody knows how much you need to eat and when you need to eat besides you. I don't even know that. Like, I'm a health coach and I help people, and some people like, well, how much of this should I be eating? I'm like, I don't know. But we're going to get to the bottom of this. Like, your body has this wisdom online. We've just stopped listening to it. Like, nobody knows this. Your macro coach, your online calorie calculators that I know everybody goes to, and you type in your little information and it spits out your things, and then you try to follow it. That thing doesn't know anything about you. It doesn't know what your nutrient needs are, your energy demands. It doesn't know where you are in your cycle. It doesn't know that you slept like shit last night. It doesn't know how stressed you are, or all the things, okay? So your body knows what you need. We just need to kind of come back to it. So in my own practice, I help women lose weight without food tracking by focusing on meal structure and protein and satiety and meal timing and blood sugar and insulin stability, and eating, most importantly, eating real food, right? We got to eat kind of like a biologically appropriate diet. Otherwise, this whole system kind of falls apart, as we're seeing. Because when we improve satiety and we regulate our appetites properly, the body often naturally regulates intake without, kind of this like obsessive micromanagement. And honestly, most women, I'm speaking for most women, but just from my experience and my practice and things like that, women don't want to track anymore. Like, they don't want to track every bite of food until they die, nor should they have to. And I generally think most women are just kind of exhausted from turning eating and dieting into another part-time job, and they're looking for a more sensible and reasonable approach to, maybe you had time to do that in your 20s and 30s. Like, maybe food tracking was no big deal. Maybe you didn't have kids or a family or a job that you've been moving up the corporate ladder, or you weren't taking care of aging parents or things like that. Maybe we just generally had more time. We generally had more muscle. We generally had some more resiliency, and we were able to get away with things a little bit until we're not. And then until we come here and it seemingly all falls apart. But my goal for my clients is to restore trust and to restore metabolic function with your body again. Tracking also opens the door, so much, because all of these coaches on, these nutrition coaches and stuff online, like, if you're food tracking and it's not working, right? Like, you're not losing weight, it's a you problem, right? Like, you must not be tracking right. You must not be counting right. You must be lying, right? And then there's, like Kinsey had said in the comments, like, then there's a lot of shame wrapped up in that. It's just like, well, that feels shitty. And I believe women when they tell me that they have diligently tracked their food and it's not working. Like, I believe that. So I feel like I had one more thing to say about that and I don't remember. Okay. Who do we have here? Sarah and Judith. Hello, party. We're on my myth number 3. I'm cruising. I think I'm making pretty good time here. I didn't actually time how long this would take me, Kinsey. So I'm gonna wing it. So myth number 3. Eating less and less is the answer, okay? The good old eat less, move more, conventional wisdom that we have all been brainwashed since we popped out of the womb, likely. Like, literally, that was the first thing that was written on the hospital walls. You will, or whatever wall you were on, like, you will succumb to eat less, move more your entire life. Congratulations. Really, that's what it feels like for a lot of women. That's what it felt like me for like a decade. So I feel like this is one of the most damaging beliefs that women carry, because, and I do want to preface this with, okay, so, well, let me backtrack here. Most women have spent decades dieting, okay? If I want to lose weight, I just need to eat less. Like that, I mean, it sounds logical, right? Like, it truly does. And it's not that this advice is entirely wrong, okay? It's how women translate this and how our diet culture has translated this into real life. When women hear that, okay, I just need to eat less, it simply becomes this calorie slashing game. That's all the focus is on. It's not focused on anything, the nourishment, the protein, all these other things that are important when we are reducing calories, because I don't want to say that in order to lose weight, we do need a little energy deficit. This is true. But the pattern of eat less, move more, it just did not translate, and women did not translate that well. Not on the women's, like, this is not our faults. It's just how this was misconstrued and stuff like that in our wellness culture. But what I see, like the cycle that I commonly see, is women undereat all day long, right? Undereat all day long, all week long, maybe for a couple weeks, they can like really stick it to their calorie slashing plan to try to be really, really disciplined. Then the nighttime comes or the evenings come, and then they overeat, okay? Then guilt sets in, and then the next day they try to compensate by eating a little less, and then the cycle repeats itself over and over and over and over again. And I'm bringing this up because this is important, because overeating is often the biological response to restriction, Okay. When we overly restrict, there's always a what's the word I'm looking for? Compensation behavior of overeating. Okay. So when women tell me like, I don't understand, I'm not losing weight, I'm barely eating anything and I'm not losing weight, this is usually what's happening. They're just trying to white knuckle their way through not eating for days, weeks, and then there's a compensation behavior of where they overeat, and then we get in a problem. You can see how we could get into a problem with that. And the female eating pattern that I commonly see looks like this. We have coffee for breakfast, okay? Maybe with like a little collagen or protein or something like that if we're trying to hit our protein numbers. Or a banana or a little yogurt cup, because everybody's too busy to make themselves a meal as we're like rushing out the door. And then we have our tiny little lunch, right? We have our little 4 ounces of chicken breast on our little rabbit lettuce with our little low-fat dressing on the side with some croutons. And then we have some rice cakes or a handful of almonds or almond butter or a protein shake mid-afternoon. And then their first actual meal of the day is dinner because they're starving, which they feast on, right? Because they're hungry from not eating all day long. And then it's snacking and scavenging the pantry at 9 p.m. up until bed. Like that is the female eating pattern for many, many, many women, okay? And women think that nighttime eating and cravings are the problem. And it's like, no, your problem started at 8 a.m. Your problem started with what you decided to do with how we engaged with food in the early part of the day. I truly don't think most people have a snacking problem or a craving problem or a sugar addiction problem. I think most women are just hungry because they're not actually getting the nutrients they need because we eat like that all day long. I was actually listening to a podcast recently, and don't quote me on this because this is probably not totally accurate, but it was saying that the standard person over 15 hours has 11 eating events. So I tried to work this in my head. I could not get to 11, but I also think it paints a really good picture of kind of how frequently we eat. I'm going to tell you that story, but it ties into my next myth. So I'm actually going to I'm going to bookmark that story for you. But so women think it's like a nighttime eating or a craving problem, but it's like that problem started earlier in the day. The body has a very sophisticated survival response to calorie restriction, okay? When calories go too low for too long, our body pushes back. Hunger increases, cravings increase, energy decreases, food obsession, right? That food noise everybody's talking about increases, metabolic adaptation occurs. Your body does not interpret your dieting plan is, hey, she's trying to get abs for Mexico. That's not how your body is interpreting that. Your body doesn't really care about your body goals, unfortunately. It interprets that as energy availability may be threatened right now, right? We've hit a time in our environment where there is food scarcity going on. So the body pushes back hard. It's trying to incentivize you to go hunt, forage, gather, order takeout, whatever it is, right? It's trying to incentivize you to go seek out that food because your body, your metabolism evolved with one goal in mind, and that's survival. Okay. It doesn't particularly care about your weight loss goals because the act of losing weight is a relatively new problem. Okay. And when we think of it on the timeline of our human evolution, how long we've been here. So, and I think many women get stuck because they keep trying to force themselves just to eat less and less, and their biology gets louder and louder underneath. The goal is to not become better at tolerating hunger. The goal is to become less hungry. Okay. These are two completely different strategies. I really want you guys to understand. Okay. The goal is not to be able to tolerate hunger better. The goal is to generally become less hungry. When we are generally less hungry, it is easier to lose weight. Okay. It's just like that little energy deficit that I talked about. Like we still do need that. So one plan involves willpower and discipline. And my plan, the other plan, involves just smarter strategies. So when women improve their satiety and their nourishment, food food becomes much more calm, weight loss feels more sustainable, and they stop feeling like they're in a fight with their body the entire day. Number 4, small, frequent meals boost your metabolism. Killer. This one's a killer. Remember this one, you guys? Eat 5 to 6 small meals a day. I used to tell people to do that. I'm sorry to everyone that I told to eat that many times a day. I used to be somebody, I remember at an old job, like, gosh, this is like 13 years ago. I would buy those, and Kinsey, you might have owned one of these at one point in time. It was like huge and kind of like the bodybuilding, the lunch things that you could fit like all of your 5 to 6. There was like a name to them. But anyways, there were these like lunch bags, so you could fit all of your nappy ass Tupperware reheated leftovers in them. And like, that's what I did, because I'm like, oh, I want to boost my metabolism. I want to burn more calories. So I'm going to eat all day. Okay. And you're going to eat every 2 to 3 hours. And if we just stop for a minute and like think critically about that, which I wish somebody would have told me to do when I was coaching people to do that, especially people who are struggling with weight or insulin resistance or any other level of metabolic syndrome, like I probably made it worse. So my apologies to those people. But if we just think critically about that, like, what sense does it make if we are trying to lose weight to be eating all day long? Like, it just like when you actually think about it, it's like, well, that doesn't make any sense. Like, this is such like old school nutrition advice that was honestly popular in the bodybuilding space, but none of us are bodybuilders. So yay us, we don't need to eat leftovers. But biologically, it makes very, very little sense. Humans are not grazing animals. Okay, we're not grazing animals. We're not cows. We are not ruminant animals who literally have to be grazing all day long in order to fulfill and meet their nutrient needs. Okay, and they have an entirely different physiology, like their intestines, their guts, all their gastric juices and stuff like that, their teeth. They have entirely different makeup in order to be eating all day long. We do not have those things. Okay, that's why we only have one stomach and cows have like 22. I don't know what it is. It's like 4. It's not 22, but you get my point. They got a lot for 22. Historically, humans went through natural periods of eating and not eating, right? Like, there were periods of feasting, there were periods where food wasn't available, and there were periods of movement in between our meals. Okay, the body evolved beautifully to handle that. Now, I understand that food scarcity and famine aren't issues anymore. Like, thank God we don't have those kind of problems. But we also have to remember that our hardwiring, like our DNA hardwiring, is very, very old, and it still plays by those rules, even though our food environment today is very, very different. So how this feasting and fasting translate into our lives, into like the modern day human, is eating meals, not snacks. Okay, eat a full meal of food all the way to satiety, and then we have a few hours at least where we are not eating until we get hungry again. Okay, so it's like meal, break, not meal, snack, meal, snack, meal, snack, meal, snack, meal, snack all day long, which is kind of like how we engage with food these days. Modern culture has people eating constantly from the minute we wake up until the minute we go to bed. But the podcast that I was talking about, that talked about like the 11 food events over 15 hours, like, I was trying to do this in my mind. I couldn't get to 11, but I was like pretty dang close. But it just paints a picture of like the frequency of food, and how kind of mismatched that is from our biology. So like, let's just go through a woman's day. Like, one of my normal clients, she wakes up, she has coffee with protein in it. Okay, now, you guys, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with like the foods that I'm listing out. I'm just but I still want to, like, each one of these is still considered like a food event, right? Because we are consuming something, we're consuming something with calories in it. So we have coffee with protein in it, and then lo and behold, we're hungry a couple of hours, so we grab a banana and one hard-boiled egg, and then lo and behold, we're hungry again, so we need a little bit of something to keep us, to get us to lunch. So we have a handful of almonds. And then we have lunch, right? We have a little chicken breast salad or a little salmon or whatever. And then after lunch, we're still starving. So we have our rice cakes, and then we have our, in the break room, and there's a bowl of M&Ms. So then we have our little drive-by handful of M&Ms. Okay, we're on 6. Was that 6? That was 6. And then we're very tired, right? So then we go to the coffee shop and we get a caramel cooler from Caribou. So that's at 7, along with a little candy bar in the afternoon. And then we get home and we have dinner. I'm at 9. That's pretty good. And then we have snack up until we go to bed. So like you can see how easily, and then, we can't forget like the little nibbles off your kids' plates and things like that. Like all of these are little eating events. So the small bites of food, the small meals, the grazing, the finishing your kids' plates, the protein bars, the crackers, the candy bowls, the little treats, the healthy snacks, I just need a little something sweet after my meals. I hear that all the time with my clients. So I just needed a little something sweet after my meal. So they like have a handful of chocolate chips or something. Now let's talk about this metabolically for a second, because this is important. Every time we eat, especially, a more carbohydrate, and this is me not having anything wrong with carbohydrates. Okay. I always have to like disclaimer that in the beginning, because people are like, oh, she said the word carbs. I'm not saying anything wrong with carbs, but every time we eat, especially a carbohydrate heavy food, which are a lot of our snacky foods, right? Like, let's be honest, we stimulate insulin. Okay. Insulin is not bad. Insulin is a hormone. It's a necessary hormone. Insulin is responsible for taking the fuel out of your blood and putting it into your cell, so your cell can use that for usable energy to power the house, right? Power your meat suit. Nothing wrong with that. That's how it should be working. But chronically elevated insulin over years and decades contributes to insulin resistance. It contributes to poor blood sugar regulation, increased hunger, increased fat storage, metabolic dysfunction. And then of course, when we go into menopause, our cells tend to get a little bit more menopause, perimenopause, that transition. Our cells tend to get a little bit more insulin resistant too. Okay, so we have all of this going on. And many women today are metabolically unhealthy, not because they're eating giant steaks for dinner, it's because they're grazing all day long and constantly. So blood sugar goes up, blood sugar goes down, craving, snack, repeat. Okay. And what's interesting is that the constant snacking often prevents women from ever experiencing true satiety or true hunger. Do you know how many women I work with and they're like, I don't even know if I really feel I don't even know if I feel what hunger actually feels like, or satiety, because we're like dribbling in these small bits of unsatiating food all day long that we never really get that true feeling of like hunger and fullness, which is ironic because our body runs on that signaling center. Okay. We just like existing in this weird middle ground about we're like thinking about food all day long. Women don't need better snack ideas. We don't need another high protein PDF online about like high protein snacks. I'm like, we don't need snack ideas. We need better meals. Meals with enough protein and enough nourishment that actually trigger fullness. Okay. Satiety, this isn't just like a ambiguous term that like doesn't really have a meaning. Like satiety is a biochemical response in the body that gets triggered when we eat enough. Okay, we have these hunger hormones that are attached to hunger and satiety, and they get triggered when we eat enough food. Like it is a response in your body that your body is looking for. Real satiety, you guys changes everything. And again, the goal is not to force yourself to eat less. The goal is just to naturally become less hungry, and eating all day long, these small meals to boost our metabolism, which doesn't even make sense, is not a good game plan to do that. What else? I got nothing.
I love you so much, and I am so grateful. I was just like jotting things down as always with you, but I'm so glad you brought up insulin, because I just realized while you were talking this time, even though we've talked about this a lot, that I think in all of the like dieting or even just like slightly less controlling like food plans, when you look at people trying to do, even just like looking at someone who has a healthy relationship with food but is trying to do macros, right? They're like trying to build muscle, so they're building macro calendar or calculator. nobody talks about insulin, which is insane when you think about it, because that is the response that keeps most people stuck and unhealthy.
Mm.
It's the body's
Yeah.
ability to like utilize insulin appropriately. And it's wild that in a world that loves to talk about like diet and nutrition rules, that we haven't actually gotten to the point that we're like, no wonder so many people are stuck, because we're damned if we do, damned if we don't. If we're not eating, we're causing inflammation throughout our entire system. Then we're binging on things that create systemic inflammation and spiking insulin. When we're snacking, we're not allowing our cells to become more insulin resistant. Both sides of the coin are affecting, I mean, it's our like number one hormone, I guess ghrelin and leptin as well. But the fact that that like really is at the crux of, especially with the people you're working at, when we're looking at weight loss or even just like body recomping, like people's ability to like build muscle, even like insulin is the thing that we should be like, every other diet fad be damned, like if you're not taking care of your blood sugar regulation, you're not going to see, you're driving a car without a steering wheel. Like it just,
Yeah.
I don't know why that didn't click until just now, but it's crazy that it doesn't even enter the conversation when we're having nutritional conversations with people at any end of the spectrum. So I'm really glad you brought that up, because that really is the crux of metabolic health, is how well are we responding to insulin.
Yeah. Yeah. It's something that is just, and a lot of people still like poo poo on it a little bit. Like, and it's the calories in, calories out people. Like, who cares about that? If you're eating less calories in your body, like you'll lose weight. And it's just like, and I talked about this the other day, I think in my stories, it's like weight loss and metabolic health are not always
They're
what's the
the
word I'm
same.
looking
The same. It's
they're,
like how
they're
body
like
comp. Yep, you can have
yeah
a very like quote unquote like fit body, but that doesn't necessarily mean that your blood work is coming back or that
yeah
longevity wise you're healthy. They're not always
yeah
aligned.
they're not mutually inclusive. That's like what I was trying,
Yeah.
like you can slash calories and lose weight. We all know that, right? I'm sure everybody here has been on a crash diet where we can crank down calories, we will lose weight temporarily, and then your body gives you a big middle finger and it gains it all back. So it's like we can lose weight and still be very metabolically unhealthy. And our metabolism is everything, right? Our metabolism, it's in how I explain it to people, it's your fuel partitioning system. Okay, it decides where fuel goes in the body. Does it go into your cell so your cell can use it for energy to power your house, or does it get shuttled into your other cells, your storage cells, your fat cells, right? And then they get put in your fat cells in the form of triglycerides. Like that's your fat, the fat storage version of that. And to me, moderating and improving that blood sugar and insulin relationship is the foundation of health. Because not only do I want women to lose weight that have weight loss goals and feel good in their body and be able to go into their closet and put on whatever the fuck they want to and it fits, but I also want them to be metabolically healthy so they can live out the rest. Midlife is midlife. You still have half your life after
Yeah.
you. Like, we have to be metabolically robust. We have to be metabolically resilient. And that's also going to come down to the foundation of your metabolism, how your body is using fuel. Are you burning more energy, or is more fuel getting shuttled into storage, into fat storage? That is what we don't want. Is it going into your visceral fat? Because that also happens when we are insulin resistant, and in your perimenopause, your menopause transition, that your fat storage changes. So instead of it kind of going all around your body, it starts to go in your trunk. So then it feels a little bit more distressing because it's all getting accumulated in one section. And a lot of that has to do with your insulin.
Yeah.
So we actually need to improve your sensitivity to it. And eating all day long is a terrible way to fix that, because you're never giving your body a break for your insulin to come down. It's just staying kind of at this elevated level all day long. But what should happen is we should eat. Insulin goes up, whatever, to manage your fuel, just like it's supposed to. And then it goes back down. It goes back into the bunker until you eat again. That's how it should be working. It shouldn't just be staying up here all day long. And that's what's happening when we're eating our 4, 5, 6, 7, 11 meals.
And just for the sake of time, because Sarah asked about protein, and I think this is a good segue, and I'm going to selfishly pivot this because this is like a huge topic. I think if you want to talk really fast on exactly, we've talked about this. So Sarah, definitely check out, I'll send the last podcast or this thing we did with Brandi where we talked about her 5 food guidelines. But I think 2 really important things about protein, if you want to hit on it, and they kind of tie together, is that front loading and then the protein leveraging hypothesis just a little. Because I think those 2 things, if you want to just kind of hit on them a little bit, they take it away from like, try to have X amount of grams of protein to like, this is your biological drive for why we need protein. And I think it makes it a little bit more like, it talks about it in a way that I think people haven't heard it, but it is kind of like not talking about insulin the way we should be thinking about protein. So do you mind just hitting on front loading and a little bit of the protein leveraging?
Yeah,
and I can hop
mental
into if you want.
Is Sarah one of your people or my people?
Mine. Hi,
or
Sarah.
Do we not know?
She with us.
Kinsey, I also have a podcast, I think, about protein, but otherwise, mental note, like another webinar, we could do like the top 4 reasons why protein is important, even though, like, as we were saying, it feels redundant, but it's not. Like, people actually really need to know this. And I think people just get so confused because there's so it's just conflicting and misinformation and just bad information out there. But so protein, super important. Like, gram for gram, the most satiating macronutrient we have, right? We have carbs, we have fat, we have protein. In my weight loss practice, I don't really focus on carbs and fat that much. Like, if I asked one of my clients, like, hey, do you have, like, how many grams of fat did you eat today or carbs? They would be like, Brandi, why are you asking me that? Like, what did I do? Like, they think it was a punishment. But we focus on protein. And then one of the number 1 reasons we focus on protein is there is a hypothesis called the protein leverage hypothesis. Much of what I was talking about our appetite signaling system. Okay, so we have our appetite signaling system, and then we have 2 sides of that. We have our hunger, and we have our satiety, our fullness. So hunger is attached to ghrelin, which is a hormone. I always think of that ghrelin growling like your stomach. So that is your cue to eat. And then we have our fullness, our satiety. Our hunger, our appetite signaling is acutely synced to protein. Okay, so the hypothesis states that every animal on Earth, including humans, right? This is how I conceptualize health. So if that felt weird to you, just bear with me here. I conceptualize humans as animals, okay? And every animal on Earth, from a human to a cat to a locust to a monkey to a rat to a grasshopper to a lemur, I could keep going on this, will all eat until their protein requirements are met. Okay, you will have a drive to continue eating until your protein requirements, your amino acids, okay, because that's what protein, if we remember, proteins break down as amino acids. And we will continue to eat until those protein requirements are met. And when that amino acid threshold is met, guess what gets triggered? Your satiety, okay? So we could eat pancakes and bread and pasta and fruit and vegetables until you turn blue in the face. But you're going to have to eat a lot of that food, calorically speaking, to be able to to flip the switch on your satiety, because when you are hungry, your body is looking for amino acids. It's not necessarily looking for fat. It's not necessarily looking for carbs. Now, I'm not saying those things are bad, anything, but that hunger signal is predominantly aligned with amino acids, okay? And when you hit that threshold, satiety is triggered. I always tell my clients, run a little experiment. For your first meal of the day, load up your plate with protein. Just humor me. Put more protein on your plate. Humor yourself, actually, not me. But you can humor me too, because you can tag me online. I like this. Just put more protein on your plate. Like, seriously, scramble yourself 6 eggs, throw some chicken, a beef patty, some sausage. Like, just make it huge to the point where you're like, I'm never going to be able to finish this. And practice eating it until your body tells you to put down the fork. Okay? You have officially met your amino acid threshold and your satiety kicked in, you're done eating. Okay? That's how we know. That's your body telling you that it's had enough food. We just don't ever do this because we let our hunger and appetite signals be controlled by arbitrary numbers like macros. Like, oh, I have to be done eating because I ran out of calories for this meal, or I hit my macros for this meal, or, ooh, I don't think I should eat this much, right? We let our little diet brain get in the way too. Of like, no, I feel like I've had enough, but has your body had enough? Has it triggered your satiety? And you're going to get that from protein. Um, Anything to add to that, Kenzie?
Yeah,
About
I think that was really good. I think just to like kind of piggyback, the reason being right because amino acids, I think a lot of times we think about protein as just something that builds muscle, but this was something
Mhm.
that I have found to be really interesting too, that just in the last couple of years is that it's so much protein when they say it's a building block for life, it's the building block for everything. So it's muscles, tissues, obviously hair, but it's also things like neurotransmitters. So serotonin,
hormones.
dopamine, hormone, every single cell is made of protein. So your body really needs protein in a way that it can't, and there are things that are essential amino acids, which means that we can only get them from food, which is also why that hypothesis, which is it's science, so it's pretty much been proven, but you can never say anything is fully proven in science. So we keep it a hypothesis and we're constantly testing and open. But because you can only get things through food, your body just biologically as a machine is going to continue to try to get as many of those EAAs, the essential amino acids, as it can. And the thing that I like to always say with that is that they work together. So, like, it's not enough just to take like a leucine supplement because that might start the car, but it doesn't have the other building blocks. So, that's why I love what Brandi talks about, which is she does in the reset, which I found really helpful for myself because I was definitely one of those people who just threw protein in my coffee and was like, I'll eat when I can. I just didn't prioritize breakfast. But as soon as I started really leaning into like an omelet that I like scrambled 4 eggs, ground beef, all this stuff, I found that I truly was like satiated in a way that like I didn't have to keep grabbing for like I did my protein coffee and then like I have 3 eggs and then I have to grab a protein bar. Like I think that's an important understanding too why protein is so essential. Carbohydrates, ironically, are the one thing that we technically don't need to eat. We can make them in our body. You still should, but just for like a perspective of like we simply cannot get certain proteins from our own body. We have to go external. Same with fatty acids. We have essential fatty acids that we need to get out exogenously as well. So thinking things like when you hear like the fish oils, there are certain things. Um, I guess just like tagging on too, because I think this is usually a pretty good follow-up, is talking about like quality of protein. Brandi hit on it pretty hard with like what she leans into with her program, but that's more of that ancestral eating, which leans into more food the way it looks, not raw for the record, because I would not touch that with a 10 feet foot pole, and like raw broccoli, don't hang out around me for like 8 hours. But like just foods that are closer to they are in nature. And when we're talking about proteins, and we're thinking about that like fancy word bioavailability of like what can my body actually use versus what do I eat and then just kind of like can't get accessed. That's when you're thinking like if animal proteins are a part of your diet and part of just like if you are okay eating animal proteins, that's going to be the source where you're really getting not just more access to higher levels of those essential amino acids that we need for these things, but you're also getting all those micronutrients Brandi was talking about. So you're getting things like the folate, the creatine, uh, B vitamins,
Iron, yeah, your
iron,
heme
totally.
iron, yeah, yeah,
So I think
yeah.
I think that's kind of just like the part that I want to just because you did a really nice job, but just to kind of like then tease out a little bit more of like, yeah, but like why? Sarah, did that kind of answer? Are there any like follow-up? Because I know I like your idea of doing a bigger topic on this. And like I told you, Sarah, I've got some things that I can send your way too. But it's a I also like your approach, Brandi, because she posted something on Instagram the other day where she was walking home with a bag of potatoes and she's like, I eat carbs because this is not to be confused with like a carnivore diet. She's still getting other micronutrients, right? All these
Yep.
veggies and fruits have different nutrients alongside that can actually help like oh, great, yay. That can help like unlock protein and like to help, fat soluble vitamins, right? So it's all part of like a bigger ecosystem. But I think that is I just one of the reasons I love your approach because it's just like just eat real food, put it on your plate. If you eat protein, it's a fun experiment because you do get full. It is very hard to overeat protein.
Try it. Literally, like you're not going to overeat it, and that's that is satiety. That's that trigger happening, that internal trigger happening in your body that said, I've had enough. And it's like
Yeah.
women ask me all the time, like, when and how much do I eat? Well, you eat until your satiety is triggered. But of course, if we're trying to trigger satiety with Doritos and pancakes, we're going to have a hell of a lot of time because there's not a hard time because there's not a lot of satiety. Like those foods are meant for you to overeat. Like it's
Even if you're doing
like,
it with like beans and rice, unfortunately, because which you can, but the amino acid profiles are lower. So in order for your body to get the building blocks it needs for all the things we mentioned, it just needs to get a little more of it. And Sarah, I love
yeah,
that you said that everybody is misinformed. That I think is probably the biggest, I would say, I don't know if you agree, but I think the biggest disservice that the diet culture industry has done for us, besides just like mess with our brain, is that it has totally sort of like red herringed what we should be paying attention to and drawn away from like what actually is a solution to health, because blood sugar regulation is so much more than weight management, right? Blood sugar regulation creates systemic inflammation down our system. So oftentimes the thing that brings people to you probably is the being uncomfortable in our body, but also when we start to see that blood sugar start to regulate, we see better brain health, we see less brain
mm-hmm.
fog. There is when we talk about Alzheimer's, it's now getting talked about as type 3 diabetes because of the insulin
Yeah.
resistance in the brain. We're looking at
All the
like neuro
neurodegenerative diseases are
exactly
linked to insulin resistance.
a lot of
PCOSs.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah. So that's like, I mean, there's a whole, I hope nobody walks away feeling like this was any sort of target, because this was to me, like I said, it just occurred to me in this, that it's insane that we don't talk about insulin. And I think the conversation is starting to pivot, but that's why I love sources like you, Brandi, because yes, you do this for a living, but you don't prey off people. And I think a lot of the diet culture still relies on people doing things, quote unquote, failing, not trusting themselves, and then leaning back on diet culture, going, oh, this must be a me problem. So I just need to try another diet or buy another program or cut a little more, instead of what you do, which is really helping women learn that like the answers have always been in our body, and that's like where you take women is inside, and not in like a weird in a weird way, not in like a close your eyes and like go there, which would be cool too, but like you just truly,
Whatever,
I've been, like I said,
whatever you
in your,
vibe with.
yeah, whatever, that's chill, I like to do that. But like in your program, I saw a lot of women commenting like this is the first time that like I feel full until lunch, or like, they've started
Yeah.
eating. So it's cool just to see like firsthand how people in just 30 days were starting to get a handle on just things that should not be as hard as they are, but we live in a world that has made mental gymnastics out of just fueling our system. So I really, really appreciate
Yeah.
this. It is now 102. So I'm gonna let everyone off the hook. You guys, I cannot thank everyone who came in person. Judith already rolled out. Sarah, thank you for being here. To everyone who's watching this, definitely feel free to reach out to Brandi. Brandi, do you want to just let us know where people can find you if they have questions or if they want to work with you?
Yeah, I mean, social media is probably the best place. You can just type in Brandi Sheehan Health. I'll come up on Instagram. I'll come up on Facebook. I unfortunately have TikTok. Don't get me started, but I'm on TikTok. I am most active on Instagram, though. That is my most active platform. And I'm sure, Kinsey, when you send out the recording to this, you can pop in my stuff. I also have like a bazillion free guides about like insulin resistance and like all of these things, kind of on the topics that we said. So you can find those from me. Please reach out to me, like DM me, shoot me a message. It is never an inconvenience. Don't feel dumb, or like I have so many people just like, well, I didn't want to just like, please, like I actually live for these conversations. I do this all day in my coaching practice, is talk to women about these things. And I will help you. And if I can't help you, I will point you in the right direction. And maybe our next one, we need to do all about insulin and blood sugar, Kinsey.
Let's get crazy. I'm down for that. And yeah, I will definitely be including all of Brandy's info. I'll also include the link to all the other or what are these called? Workshops that we've done for Fit After 40. So you can check out Brandy's. And I will also, I'll also include the last podcast I did with Brandi. And she and I actually have another one releasing where we talk a lot about insulin, actually, because that's where we did the fire analogy. So our next podcast is going to drop next week
Yeah,
together. So I'll make sure that you guys all get access to that too, because that one really goes into it. And then as always, if you're still watching, thank you. If you have ideas that you would like to hear about, if you have questions, definitely someone else has the same question, even if we've already kind of touched on it and you're like, I still want a little bit more info. Brandi and I were just talking about this before. Like, it's so hard when you're in this all day to know what people actually want to hear. So feedback is so stinking helpful. Both of us can talk about things for a million years. So reach out with topics and we'll definitely cover them. And then I think that's just pretty much all it is. Brandi, thank you so much for your time today. I adore you. I just feel like I always
thanks for
get
having
something from
me.
you. Thank you. I'm so glad that you're here. Just kicking diet culture in its stupid, ugly face. And Sarah, thank you for staying with us through to the end. You're a rock star.
Thanks,
Like Brandi
Sarah.
said, reach out. Her pod or her Instagram really is like she just basically, I know, cute, right? She does like daily informational videos every single day. So check it out, and we'll do one more heart for the crowd. All
Why
right,
don't I
everyone.
have
I'm going to
that?
turn off the recording. I love you all.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Woo!
Bye.